Welcome to the NFL Weekly Pick'em Show. We are week 3 on the Grueling Truth Sports Network. The NFL Pick'em Show is brought to you by Replenishing Care Technologies, the future of sports medicine. To find out more about them, go to thegruelingtruth.net, click on the banner at the top of the page. I am your co-host for the NFL Pick'em Show, Mike Goodpaster, and right now I want to welcome in my other co-host. First up, Matt Andruscavage. How you doing, Matt?
I'm great. Hope everyone's doing well.
And that was really a quick comment, too. I wasn't ready there. And that's
somebody
answer the phone. We've got a man who is that's my phone. I just let it ring. It's Steve Risley, who you can hear on Survive in Advance every day at noon with me. Also, of course, we got Brian Schmidt, who doesn't like to admit the fact that he is a Pittsburgh Steelers fan. How you doing, Brian?
Oh, I'm good. And again, I'd like to point out that much like Tom Brady's agent, I just said we weren't discussing that. So if you bring anything up about that or the fact that my guys on the flight and on the sideline, I'm going to hang up much like he did in that radio thing. So,
Well, you can hang up, but that'll just make you go in 16 on your picks this week. So
it depends on. Actually, no, it won't because the Steelers play at the end of it all. We're good.
It still would make you if you hung up. I mean, unless you're just going to wait, because I'm going to ask you immediately about Le'Veon Bell. But next
I want to know more about Antonio Brown.
There's nothing going on with him. I think that's made up. Next up, played for the Carolina Panthers, University of Cincinnati. Help me welcome to the show, former Carolina Panther, Tony Pike. How you doing, Tony?
I'm doing well. This is a big week. The Bengals head down to Carolina. It's going to be an interesting game on Sunday. I'm kind of torn in between both here.
All right. You should never be torn, Tony. You live in Cincinnati. You don't live in Carolina. You live in Cincinnati, Tony. All right. That's our first Sam Weiss thing of the year.
Shades of Sam Weiss.
Yeah, and when we look at this, I think I want everybody's opinion on Josh Gordon and the New England Patriots. And we'll start off with Brian Schmidt, who cheers for the Pittsburgh Steelers, who couldn't even beat the Cleveland Browns.
But we didn't lose to the Cleveland Browns, so that's also
If you didn't beat the Cleveland Browns, you lost to them. But go ahead, Brian.
No, we're going to salvage this one because that's all I got. Funny thing about Josh Gordon deal is once again the Patriots always find a way to do this. Cleveland wanted to get rid of him, and the the Patriots come in and they make a deal that's not, it's a really good deal, almost a risk-free deal for them. If he gets suspended, if he doesn't play 10 games, there's a provision for that. It's really interesting that they pulled this off. But once again, this is what the Patriots do. It's why they're the Patriots. And I think this does nothing but help them.
Well, I know me and Matt talked yesterday about he brought up the 49ers might be going after him. I said it was a bad idea. And the reason, Matt, I thought it was a bad idea for the 49ers, but not the Patriots, is with the Patriots, you have veteran leadership. Even if he comes in and is a complete ass, they're going to get rid of him immediately anyways. Where I think if he goes to the Niners, you risk maybe infecting some guys that aren't where you need to be yet.
Hard to say on that. I think the locker room is tight. They do have a lot of good veteran leadership there. I'd like to think that they're already to the point where they could deal with something like that, but certainly the Patriots would be in a better position just because they got Belichick, Brady, and a couple of those guys that have been through it before that got the titles to back it up. If there's one place for sure that Josh Gordon could end up that you would say is a real true low-risk move that we would all agree on, it would probably be the New England Patriots. So, I think it's a good move for them because I think it's just low risk. I think any team that brings him in, as long as they would be truly willing to get rid of him if he became a cancer, it's low risk, high reward because the guy's got amazing talent. They're not giving up a lot for him. And right now, New England is a lot more strapped than my team is at wide receiver. They need him more. So, I mean, this to me really, really helps them. And you team him with Gronk, and then you're getting Edelman back in a couple weeks. Tremendous move for the Patriots.
I disagree because I still think I don't want this guy on my team, Tony. When you look at this, since he was in 7th grade, he's had issues. And I think this may work out for him, but in the end, I just don't know why you want this trouble or problem.
Yeah, the problem for me is you look at the Browns, stick by this guy for multiple years through all that, but yet once they get everything rolling this year and they got Jarvis Landry, and it seems like they're getting stuff together, now they choose to let him go and trade him away. My question is there something more underlying with the Browns' decision here to part ways, and was there no better offers than a 5th-round pick for this guy? But for me, you look at New England and what they historically do. They brought Michael Floyd in a couple of years ago after his DUI, and he got snaps in the Super Bowl for him. I'm just more worried. If I'm New England, yeah, you're getting Gronk back, you're getting Edelman back, you're going to pair Josh Gordon up with those guys. I'm more worried about giving up 31 points to a Leonard Fournette less.
Hey, Mike, can you hear me?
Okay, just a second, CJ. Go ahead, Tony. Sorry about that.
No, I would be more worried at this point about beating them, giving up 31 to a team led by Blake Bortles with no Leonard Fournette right now.
Yeah, and, we're going to go ahead. We're going to introduce we got a special guest tonight. Each week we're going to try to have a guest picker from here on out. And we've got a man who knows a little about the New England Patriots because they've been beating the hell out of his team for years. Help me welcome to the show the founder of the Jets Factor podcast, which you can hear on thegruelingtruth.net, CJ DeSimone. And CJ, what's your take on Josh Gordon going to the Jets or the Patriots?
It really doesn't make a difference to me, to be honest with you. I mean, Josh Gordon, he's one failed drug test away from being suspended or pretty much banned from the NFL for life. So, I mean, if the Patriots want to continue to recycle retreads, I mean, that's on them. So, and, pretty much has a testament to Bill Belichick's arrogance as to not going out and drafting wide receivers and building wide receivers, instead going and getting these, retreads, thinking that, Tom Brady's going to turn everybody into a superstar. And sometimes that doesn't always work out. I mean, take a look at Kenbrell Tompkins. So,
I think there's a big difference between Kenbrell Tompkins and Josh Gordon, though.
Yeah, huge. Well, I mean, Josh Gordon, let me tell you, I think one of the things that a lot of fans are saying this in regards to his tenure with Cleveland, and it's just a lot of wasted opportunity and wasted talent. So, because he chose to, get himself involved with drugs as opposed to, really harnessing his football career. But how much of that actually has to do with how many people has he been surrounding himself with that have just been, horrible influences on him? Yeah,
well, hopefully, I wouldn't sign him, as I said, but I hope the guy gets his life together. I hope Belichick takes care of it. They keep somebody with him and straightens him out, because I hate to see anybody, end up that way. But in the end, I still come back to this. But we won't let Colin Kaepernick play because he took a knee. So sometimes it just blows my mind.
Right.
Let's go ahead. What was your big takeaway from week 2, Tony?
I think it's the continued emergence of Patrick Mahomes in this Kansas City Chiefs offense. When you look at what they can do offensively, when you look at Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce and Sammy Watkins, and by the way, they have Kareem Hunt, who took the league by storm last year as a running back that they haven't even utilized a ton yet this year. If they can find a way to just get in people's way on defense, I think they're going to have a very positive year. And on the other side of that ball, the continued struggles of the Pittsburgh Steelers and giving up points and giving up the deep ball and the self-implosion of Bud Dupree clapping back at people on Twitter and Instagram, and Antonio Brown clapping back and missing practice on Monday. There's just a lot going on in that organization that someone needs to step up, because you don't have James Harrison in the locker room as a player anymore. You don't have Ryan Shazier there pulling the team together in a situation like this where it seems like it's imploding and ripping at the seams. Someone's got to be in there trying to pull them together.
All right, Matt?
I would say the obvious one in the NFC, pointing up the surprise of Tampa Bay. That it's pretty amazing what Fitzpatrick's doing. Can he sustain this? Are we going to keep seeing 75-yard touchdowns? I think we've got 3 now in 2 weeks from him. Hard to believe he's going to keep that up, but it's an interesting story. But for me, the biggest takeaway in the NFC is what's going on with the New Orleans Saints. I think we all had them as a top 4 team in the NFC, possible championship game, Super Bowl contender. And, you look on offense, I mean, they barely survived against the Cleveland Browns, which they really should have lost that game. And then you've got the way that they lost to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So it's just not really, and they're both those games were at home. So you would think that that's when they really play well. So something's going on with New Orleans, not sure what, maybe they'll get it turned around.
Yeah, my guess is with Drew Brees, Sean Payton, they'll get it turned around. Brian, you want to talk a little about Pittsburgh Steelers?
No, not really. My biggest takeaway, and I guess it's, it would be, first of all, Patrick Mahomes, but I think the biggest one is the amount of teams out there that need a kicker. Browns, Green Bay, Minnesota. I mean, there is a definite need for kickers that in big moments can come through, and we kind of see this early in the season where you're seeing a lot of kickers miss big kicks. So my shameless plug is we've got a kicker here who's got pro experience that would be great here in Carolina, but I really would like to see kids like that get a chance, but I'm just amazed the amount of kickers that are missing big kicks early in the season.
All right, CJ.
Yeah, just to follow up that point on the kicking game, a lot of kicks have been being missed, and we're going to look back on this in a couple more years, and a lot of people are going to ask as to whether or not they would have actually changed the extra point rule from where it originally was to where it is now, and how much of an effect has it in regards to the kicking game. And another thing, too, is that we've also noticed that in the NFL, we haven't really put a lot of emphasis on the special teams side of the ball. I mean, let's face it, they're kicking the ball off from the 40-yard line, the 35-yard line. Pretty much every kickoff ends up through the uprights or through the back of the end zone where it's not really returnable. So many punts now, we're starting to see a drastic reduction in the amount of punt returns that are actually being executed. So, eventually I think the NFL Competition Committee is going to have to reflect upon these decisions in regards to special teams, and I understand patient safety it takes precedent, but after a while, it does happen to stymie the excitement from the game a little bit, and also in regards to field advantage, you're not really getting any type of field advantage out of it. So.
Yeah, and my big thing is the roughing the passer rule, and every week it strikes its head in more than one game, and it struck its head again with the Green Bay Packers, Clay Matthews. I don't know how they get that he lifted the guy up. It looked like he went out of his way not to hurt him, and they flag him. And people will say that it cost the Packers a game, especially Packer fans. But come on, Packer fans, you guys been getting the calls since the early 1960s, so you can take one on the chin, because it comes down to this: they had multiple chances to win the game at the end of it, anyways. And their kicker, who hardly ever missed the kick. The play calling from Mike McCarthy was terrible, and the Green Bay Packers may make the playoffs because they've got number 12, but they're never making a Super Bowl run until they get a head football coach and they get some more depth on that roster, especially defensively. And also, the Cincinnati Bengals are basically 2 games ahead of the Pittsburgh Steelers, and Brian Schmidt, there you go. All right, so let's go to week 3. Now,
it's been a long time since you've been able to say that.
No, it hasn't. It was like a couple of years ago that I said that. And at least when my team implodes, they wait till later on in the season. Yours just
wow.
All right.
That's
we're going to let CJ go first, because the New York Jets, which are his team, you can hear him on the Jets Factor podcast on thegrizzlytruth.net. We'll go to Cleveland to face the Browns. CJ, who you like in this one?
Well, I have to say one thing. I've got two positions on this. One, if you're the gambler, you definitely want to take the Browns and give up the 3 points to the Jets. This is going to be a very, very tough game for the Jets. Coming off a heartbreaking 20-12 loss at your home opener in your home stadium at the hands of the Miami Dolphins, a game in which, in my opinion, was incredibly winnable, and penalties, spotting the Miami Dolphins 14 points on turnovers definitely does not help. I really felt that the Jets played well enough to win, but they just did not make enough plays to win. But Sam Darnold did struggle, and his receivers did not help him, like Chris Herndon's catch on the 1-yard line where he goes and fumbles the ball and tries to push the ball into the end zone, and Terrell Pryor basically looking around like he's in the land of the lost. So that's no surprise there. And then, Sam Darnold's 2 interceptions, one of them which was not his fault. Terrell Pryor just stopped running on a route in the back of the end zone. Had he made that catch, the score would have actually been 20-13, and we probably would be having a different conversation right about now. But this is a Cleveland Browns team that over the past 3 years that the Jets have beaten, 2 of these times that the Jets have beaten, they've had to come from behind. One overcoming a 20-3 deficit, another one overcoming a 21-6 deficit, I believe. So this is a game in which these Cleveland Browns have a very good defensive unit. They're very opportunistic. They can cause turnovers. Sam Darnold and the Jets offense needs to get themselves.
You're all right. Go ahead, CJ. Tony got knocked off. We had to get him back on.
Sorry about that.
All righty, that's no problem. So, Sam Darnold and the offense, they can't afford to be complacent, and the defense really needs to be on its toes, and they really need to be opportunistic themselves in forcing either Tyrod Taylor or Baker Mayfield or whoever's going to be under center. Last time as far as I know, I'm hearing they're doing kicking tryouts in the parking lot of Cleveland Stadium just before the Jets game. So there could be another kicker announced at this point. But for the betting man, you definitely want to take the Browns and give up the points to the Jets. But for me, from the heart, I think that the Jets took a smack in the mouth on Sunday. They've got something that they need to prove. Sam Darnold has something that he feels like he needs to prove. And this team wants to bounce back. Even though on short rest, it's a daunting task. But I think this ends up being another ugly Thursday night game with the Jets taking this maybe 13-10.
All right. I like Cleveland in this game. I think this is where they get the win that they've been waiting for, seems like decades for. I think it'll be a close game. I just think Cleveland, it's hard to go on a Thursday night and beat a visiting team and win. We saw it with the Ravens last week and how far they fell behind the Bengals right from the start. So I'm going with Cleveland. Tony, what do you think?
I'm gonna take the Jets in this one. I think they're giving away tickets in Cleveland this weekend or this Thursday night for the game. To me, it just seems like
yes, they are.
Yes. All that today.
It is all over Facebook.
Yep. When you go through the first 2 weeks that Cleveland has, where you should have won against Pittsburgh, you should have won at New Orleans. At some point, you got to have a step back and a little bit of a letdown. I thought they had a great game plan against New Orleans. I thought that was one of Hugh Jackson's best games that he coached. But when you look at it, I'm impressed with Sam Darnold. I think they have a bounce-back week. I think the defense comes to play on Thursday night. You have the whole Josh Gordon leaving dilemma. I think there's too many distractions in Cleveland right now. I take the Jets.
All right, Brian?
I'm going to go with Cleveland. I feel like they finally are going to break this, and they've been close. The Jets just are you see that, potentially you got a good coach and they get some more players down the road. It develops Donald, it develops these guys, do all that. But really right now, I feel like this is one where after the last 2 weeks, I think Cleveland sees this as a circle on the schedule game that they can win, and I think they'll come in and win this game.
All right, Matt?
I'm going to go with the Jets. I just can't pick Cleveland. I think this is going to be one of those times where they really had a chance to win on Sunday. They didn't, and now I think it's really going to cost them. I think the Jets are not only going to win, but I think they're going to win by 2 touchdowns.
All right.
I think so. I'm going with the Jets.
Next up, Bills-Vikings. Do we even need to ask?
Good God.
All right, next up, the New York Giants at the Houston Texans. I'll start it off. I think the Texans will win this game. Both teams have underperformed, but the Giants' defense or offensive line I don't think is good enough to protect against a really good Houston Texan defensive line, Tony.
Yeah, I'm with you. I posed this on Twitter today. If the Bills were to travel to Tuscaloosa and play Alabama, and the spread was 24, could the Bills cover 24 in Tuscaloosa?
Come on, Tony. You're not going to be one of those guys, are you? It's still an NFL team.
That's
barely.
That's a bad team. But I agree. I think the Texans. I think Deshaun Watson has a breakout game. I thought we were going to have a bad offensive line in Cincinnati this year. The Giants' offensive line is terrible, and it's a shame because Saquon Barkley is one of those once-in-a-decade type of backs, and I think he's going to have a tough go of it early. I think the Texans figure it out. Their defense comes to play, and they get a win.
All right, Matt?
Yeah, Texans. I think the Giants have too many problems. I think the Texans can do enough, kind of like what the Cowboys did to take Odell Beckham away. And Deshaun Watson plays well here, so I'm going to go with Texans.
All right, Brian?
Yeah, I'm the same way. I'm going to go with Texans. I just do not think that with that offensive line, I mean, he has no time to go downfield. And I think over the last few years, I think Eli's just, losing some of that confidence and things like that because, quite frankly, he never has time to throw. So I just think that we're going to see the Giants start to slide a little bit based on what I've seen. So Texans will win this one, I think, pretty handily.
All right, CJ?
Yeah, I think it's going to be unanimous. I think that the Texans take this over the Giants. The Giants' offensive line can't stop a beach ball right now, and Eli Manning is at some point during this season going to get himself killed. And I just think that Saquon Barkley, even though I know that he's a dynamic offensive weapon, if they can't get him the ball and the Giants can't get the running game going, he's pretty much going to be neutralized. So I just have no faith in the Giants' offensive line at this point. So I think Deshaun Watson can definitely pass on this defense. I think that secondary is ripe for a big game. So I like the Texans big in this game.
All right, next up, we got the Green Bay Packers traveling to Washington to take on the Redskins. Packers are coming off the controversial tie with the Vikings. The Redskins are coming off a home opening loss to the Colts where they didn't just lose. They looked really bad, Brian.
Yeah, they did. I'm going to go with the Vikings.
The Vikings? All right, write it down, man. He picked the Vikings.
I got it.
Tony,
Twice.
Who do you got? The Packers, the Redskins, or the Vikings?
Wait a minute, what game are we talking about? I'm just sitting here looking at the schedule, and I think I just probably picked the game that I just was staring at.
The Packers at the Redskins, Schmitty.
Oh, never mind, Packers.
It's too late. You picked the Vikings. Tony?
No.
Are we at a point in the show yet where we can start picking ties because we've seen it for 2 weeks now?
Yes, you can pick ties.
Can we start going out on a limb?
Yeah.
I really thought going into the year with Alex Smith, with how he used the tight end with Jordan Reed, that they would be able to move the ball a little bit. You haven't seen that yet. I think Green Bay has a bounce back coming off the controversial tie for the Vikings.
All right, CJ.
Yeah, I'm definitely picking the Packers in this one. I don't think there's no contest. I think that Alex Smith is just going to be frustrated all day long by that Packers defense. And I think Aaron Rodgers is just going to light the Redskins up like a Christmas tree. So I got the Packers in this one.
Yeah, I'm taking the Packers, too. I think the Redskins will score points because I don't think the Packers' defense is that good, but they're not going to score enough. Matt?
Yeah, Packers should win this by a couple of scores as long as their head coach doesn't decide to run a zone read with a hobbled quarterback on 2nd and 2 late in the game. But no, Packers should win this.
If he was going to do that, the best place to do it is Washington because they did it in the playoffs with Mike Shanahan and RG3 to 1 year.
Exactly. They look the same.
Next up, we got Matt Andruscavege's San Francisco 49ers traveling to Kansas City to get bludgeoned by the Chiefs. Who you got in this, Matt?
Well, I would love to take my team on this one. They get Reuben Foster back, so the defense should be a little bit better. They should get Marquise Goodwin, which will make the receiving team more dangerous. But Kansas City's offense is just on fire right now. I don't know that we're going to be able to stop them. I also don't think they're going to be able to stop the Niners, though, because they also lead the league in 20-yard or more plays given up. So I think this could be somewhat of a track meet, but Kansas City's a really difficult place to win. So as much as I want to take my team here, I also want to win the Pick'em show. So I'm going to take the Chiefs and make it a close game.
Yeah, my only thing here is with the 49ers defense is the Chiefs did play the Chargers and the Steelers, who have, two guys that are probably Hall of Fame quarterbacks. CJ, 49ers at Chiefs.
You know what? I think that this game definitely has the potential to be a track meet. The question is going to be if the 49ers have enough firepower to be able to keep up with Kansas City, and I just think that they're going to fall short. So I think that we probably see a record number of passing yards thrown in this game, as well as a record number of points. Don't be surprised if this ends up being like a 51-48 affair. I definitely take Kansas City in this one.
Yeah, I'd say Chiefs more like 41-20. What do you think, Tony?
Yeah, I'm with you. I think if this is played later in the season, I might lean to San Francisco just because every year it seems like an Andy Reid coach team struggles down the stretch and into the playoffs. But the way they are now, they're still utilizing these weapons. They're finding new ways to get guys the ball. It's hard for defenses to still adjust because they haven't seen all the new wrinkles yet. I'm going to take Kansas City just because it's at this point of the season. This is when usually Kansas City gets hot.
All right, Brian.
I'm going to take Kansas City. I really like the way Patrick Mahomes played, and being early in the season, again, that's where they tend to do these things and play really well. So I just like Patrick Mahomes the way he plays. I think he is going to be a really good quarterback.
Next up, Oakland Raiders at the Miami Dolphins. CJ.
You know what? I'm going to take the Dolphins in this one because I just think, they're coming off a 2-0. Raiders having to travel to the East Coast. The Raiders traditionally and historically do not travel well, and I just think that John Gruden and him trading Khalil Mack has pretty much decimated their pass rush, and I think Tannehill's going to have his way with them. So I'm picking the Dolphins in this one.
All right, Matt.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with the Dolphins as well. I would never have thought so if I had seen this game at the start of the season, but given the way the Raiders have played and given the way the Dolphins have played, I just think everything's stacked against the Raiders right now. I don't think John Gruden's that great of a coach. I think this is going to end up tarnishing his career overall in his time there. And the Dolphins have something to prove. I think they just they want to prove that they're not a fluke. They're at home. I think they can win this. So I'll take the Dolphins.
All right, Brian.
I'm going to take the Dolphins as well. I just think this is a little bit different Dolphins team than what we thought it was going to be, and I think this is another chance for them to continue getting this done and doing some things that they're doing. So I'm going to take the Dolphins.
All right, Tony.
I was going to take the Dolphins for the sheer fact that I think everyone forgets before Tannehill went down last year, he was putting together a good start of the year. They were moving the ball pretty well. To me, though, I'm going to go out on a limb and take the Raiders just because I feel like if they fall here to 0-3, you already know the Khalil Mack issue. Gruden's having trouble with the defensive coordinator. He's having trouble with the guys upstairs. I think things can start to unravel pretty quick if they don't come out and get this win this week. I think he needs to start relying a little bit on his coaches because the game's changed a lot since John Gruden has been a coach in this game. And I think all the quarterback film room and the stuff like that has made him relevant and a hot name. But until he does something on the field, you can't buy in. I think they get it done this week against Miami.
Yeah, I just think this is two equally matched, not very good teams. I do think Tannehill's better than he's given credit for. I think Carr's a good quarterback. If I'm picking this game, I would take Carr over Tannehill, but I think the Dolphins' defense is a lot better than the Raiders. So I'm going to go with Miami also. Next up, we've got the Indianapolis Colts, who have had a good start to the season, Tony. I mean, they played the Bengals tough, probably won 2.5 quarters of that game before the Bengals came back on them. And now we get the Philadelphia Eagles, and it looks like Carson Wentz may be playing. It's at Philadelphia. What do you think? Does Carson Wentz make a difference right away, or is he going to be rusty?
I think he does. I think if he weren't ready to come back, then they would hold him back again. I think he maybe could have played even last week. I've been really surprised with Andrew Luck and the Colts how well they've been able to move the ball. Their defense is coming up with stops. Like you said, they held Cincinnati for most of that game. With that being said, you're the defending Super Bowl champs. You're getting your starting quarterback back. You're at home. You're coming off a bad loss. I think they bounce back and get a win this week.
Yeah, and they have looked good, but they haven't looked good. I mean, but with him coming back, Carson Wentz, I would think that there's a lot better chance that maybe he lights a fire here, CJ.
Yeah, I'm definitely picking the Eagles in this one. I just think that, the defending Super Bowl champs, you're getting your starting quarterback back and everything. And, for the Colts, I just think that the Colts do not have the firepower to keep up with the Eagles at this point. I think that the Eagles are going to be hungry for this game to get the taste out of their mouth after losing to the Bucs, after coming from behind and almost pulling it out. So I pick the Eagles in this one.
All right, Matt.
Yeah, Philadelphia should definitely win this game, but I think it's going to be more about what they do on the defensive side of the ball. I just think, the Colts traveling to Philadelphia with that offensive line, limited running game, it really bodes bad for Andrew Luck. Philadelphia's pass rush, that front seven should really be able to get after him. Philly will win the game. They'll get enough offense, but I think they'll really be able to stifle that Colts offense.
Yeah, and Matt, when I look at this game, it reminds me of the Bengals and the Colts game where Andrew Luck's good enough to hold this together for a certain amount of time. But as you said, when you can't run the ball, it's really hard to beat a front seven like Philadelphia or Cincinnati or Minnesota because these guys get after the passer and eventually they get worn down. I think this is a game that's close for a little over half, and then Philadelphia pulls away. Brian, what's your take?
Yeah, I agree. With Wentz coming back, the Eagles defense, I think is going to be able to get after Luck. I think really kind of the same way. I think this may be close early, but then the Eagles will pull away, and I'm really interested to see with Wentz back, just seeing how this offense looks, how it flows. Seeing if this is the same quarterback that we saw over the last few years before he got hurt. Because when he's on, I think he is one of the top quarterbacks in the league. He's in that conversation.
All right, next up, Titans, Jaguars, Tony.
For me, I got to go to the Jaguars. This Jaguar team against the Patriots looks to me like a team that can get over the hump this year and make a run. And I know they're going to go as far as Blake Bortles goes. But what I loved about Jacksonville this past week is once they got that lead against New England, they didn't just start running the ball and sitting on it. Even late in that game, Blake Bortles was still throwing passes. They were still being aggressive. And I think that's a mindset now that you see with Marone and this team to say, hey, we're going to go start taking these wins. We're not going to rely on the defense, which is great. The whole game, they're going to go and take it. I think they beat a Titans team still looking for themselves.
All right, Matt.
Yeah, the Titans are just really not in the Jaguars class. I think Jacksonville proved something over the course of this past week without Leonard Fournette. I think Tony really hit it on the head. They were aggressive, and if Blake Bortles can just take care of the football, they really should have no trouble winning this game.
Yeah, and Brian, I think the Titans have not looked good this year, but their helmets do.
Yeah, that is something. But no, this Jaguars team is a real good team. I like watching them against the Patriots. I really liked a lot of things that they did, just that aggressive style, and I just don't think the Titans will be able to really keep up with them and be able to do much offensively. Jaguars got a really good defense. Good defense. They're fun to watch.
CJ?
Definitely taking Jacksonville in this one. I think that Jacksonville's defeat of New England last week pretty much cemented that they are the new up-and-comers, and that New England needs to beware that if these two teams end up finishing in the AFC Championship game, New England is definitely going down. With that Jacksonville defense, unless somebody could match their intensity, they're going to be a difficult out. I'm picking the Jags in this one.
Well, I would say this. One game, a win on home in week 2 against New England does not make you New England, CJ. And if they were playing in a championship game, I'd still bet on New England.
I don't know. I think the Jaguars still have that bad taste in their mouth from the AFC Championship game from last year.
Well,
so I
tell
think
you
that this team...
The Pittsburgh Steelers have had multiple bad tastes against the New England Patriots and never could change it, no matter how good they looked in the regular season. Sorry, Brian.
True. That is true.
No, it's the thing about New England. We've talked about New England many times. The thing about New England is it's great, and the Steelers have beat them in the regular season. It's great and everything. They are such a different team in the playoffs. And until somebody matches that and beats them, it's so hard to pick against them.
All right, next up, we've got the Cincinnati Bengals at the Carolina Panthers. And Tony, since you live in Cincinnati and not Charlotte, and you're kind of a Bengals fan now, and I guess you always were, you played for the Carolina Panthers. Who do you got in this one?
This is tough. This is a
and Joe Mixon's out, right?
Yep. So Joe Mixon won't be playing. Billy Price didn't practice today. The first round, or the pick out of Ohio State at center. But you look at Carolina, and they're in the same transition. Thomas Davis is still not back to playing. Greg Olsen is out. I think you're going to see McCaffrey get about 18 touches out of the backfield in the passing game because they don't have, outside of Devin Funchess, a receiver that you're going to be worried about going into the game. But I think going into this one, when you don't have Joe Mixon, you might not have Billy Price at center. You still don't have Vontaze Burfict. And I think the way that Atlanta came out and ran the ball on Carolina and Luke Kuechly in that defense, they're going to get back to work this week and play with a lot more of the intensity and fire that you come to expect. I think this is a great game. I'm actually heading down for it, but I think Carolina gets ahead in this one and gets a win.
All right, Brian, we'll just ignore Tony's lunacy.
Well, I don't think we can ignore it too much. Yeah, I think if Mixon was playing and everything, to me, I would want to go with the Bengals. But I think with the situation it is, being on the road, I'm going to take the Panthers in this one. It won't surprise me if the Bengals win, but I think that the Panthers are going to be able to do enough in this, to win, a 23-20, 26-23 kind of game.
All right. I'm going to go with the Bengals against my better judgment, even though Joe Mixon's there, because you still got Gio Bernard, who's not a bad running back, and you still got a ton of weapons on the perimeter. And I will go so far as to say this, too. I think the Bengals are better at quarterback than the Panthers. I'm going to take the Bengals, CJ.
Yeah, you know what? You got mine. I'm going to definitely take the Bengals in this one. I just think that AJ Green's going to be a big factor in this game, and I think that Gio Bernard, don't be surprised if he ends up going over 100 yards in this game.
All right, Matt.
I think Tony and Brian really kind of said what I was thinking too. I mean, if Joe Mixon's in this game, I'm probably going with the Bengals. I like Gio Bernard. I just think in this particular situation, we're looking at a really tight game no matter what. I don't think whoever wins this game is going to win by much. But with Carolina being at home, being able to rebound off of last week, I think they barely squeaked this out.
Okay, so I guess me and CJ are the only one with common sense. The next game, the Denver Broncos at the Baltimore Ravens. CJ, I'll let you go first.
Oh, man. I think if there's any game that's going to end up in a tie, it might be this one, because sometimes both of these teams have proven that they can move the ball up and down the field, but then there are other times where these teams are just excruciatingly painful to watch. But against my better judgment, I'm going to take the Ravens in this one.
All right, I'm going to take the Ravens, too. The way I look at it is the Ravens beat up a bad team. They lost to the Bengals, but they were down 28-7, 21-0, didn't give up. Their defense, I think, is good enough to shut down Denver. I just don't buy Denver. You've got 2 Denver wins against 2 teams that I don't think are that good. They're both in Denver. I'm going with the Ravens, Matt.
Yeah, I can see where you're at with that. I just don't like Baltimore that much at all this year.
Me neither. I don't like them. And I can speak for Brian. I don't think Brian does either.
I would imagine he doesn't. I just don't think Flacco is playing well at all. I don't think they've got much of an offense. And Denver's got enough on defense where even when they go on the road, I think they can win just with their defense and just taking care of the football. As long as Case Keenum doesn't throw interceptions, I think they can win this game. So I'll take Denver.
All right, Tony.
Yeah, I'm on the fence here with this one. I think you start to see a little bit more of a Lamar Jackson package. I'm just not sold on Joe Flacco being a lead Joe Flacco. I thought against the Bengals, Terrell Suggs looked, for the first time that I've seen him, old when he was in the pass rush. And much like when you look at games like this, I think Denver just travels better with their defense. I'm still impressed with what they can do. The Bengals got after Flacco in the running game. I think Denver can shut that down and find enough. We saw what A.J. Green did to Baltimore. I think you'll find Demaryius Thomas and Wade just put enough points on the board, and Denver comes out with a win.
Nah, you've changed my mind now, Tony, but I'm not supposed to by league rules. All right, Brian.
This is tough for a lot of reasons for me, because I'm not sold on Denver, but I'm definitely not sold on Baltimore. And if I really wanted to pick a tie, I guess it would be a great pick, but I don't think it's going to be a tie. But I'm going to take Baltimore at home. I'm not buying Denver. I'm kind of the same way. I just don't buy them yet as being a legit team. It's just not there for me. So I'm going to take Baltimore at home. I think it'll be a good close game, but I just can't get over the hump. I just don't think Denver is as good as, they're 2-0 record.
All right, next up, we got a battle in the AFC South between what could be the 2 best teams there, the Atlanta Falcons and the New Orleans Saints. I think Atlanta's going to end up winning this division, Matt. I like them. They've got a lot of injuries right now, and the Saints are not playing up to par. I'm going to go with Atlanta just because of the home team in the Dome here.
Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at with it. Both teams are really unimpressive at this point. Atlanta really does have a lot of injuries, but I think the Saints, if the Saints had lost to Cleveland, I think I'd probably pick them to win, but I don't know that this is going to be a really pretty game. I think Devontae Freeman being out kind of hampers their running game. I just don't know what's going on with New Orleans yet, so at this point I'm going to take the Falcons, but I guess really nothing would surprise me here, but I'll take Atlanta.
All right, CJ.
You know what? I'm going to go against the grain here, and I'm going to pick the Saints. I think if the Saints have any opportunity for them to right the ship, I think this is the week that will give them the opportunity to do so. With Atlanta being banged up, no Devonta Freeman, the Saints still have Alvin Kamara back there. Drew Brees is always a factor in any game that he steps on the field. So I'm going to pick the Saints here in an ugly game.
All right, Brian.
I'm going to take Atlanta. The Saints have not played well. They're on the road, which has always been, yes, it's a dome, but it's still on the road. Atlanta, I feel like is right now going to be a little bit better in this game. And I think, everybody keeps saying it's not going to be a pretty game. I think when you got, Matt Ryan and Brees throwing the football, the potential to have a shootout and have a real high-scoring, fun game to watch is there. And so I think it's going to be one of those. I think in the end, I think Atlanta's going to pull this out.
All right, Tony.
Well, I know one thing for sure. Matt Ryan's not going to have 2 rushing touchdowns this week like he did against Carolina. No Devontae Freeman. And when you look at the Saints, week 1 looked like a surprise, but that's the same Tampa Bay team that went and beat the Eagles. I think Tampa's better with Ryan Fitzpatrick. I think the Browns had a great game plan. Hugh Jackson probably coached his best game. And they still found a way to win, and they found a way to get Michael Thomas more involved at the end of that game. I'm with CJ here. I think the Saints go in and put together an impressive win. Because if they don't look well this week, I think you kind of start to mark them off as what they are. I think now going into week 3, they still have a chance to prove people wrong and show that they belong in that top tier.
All right, next up we have what I think is the most interesting game of the week, the battle for Los Angeles. Brian, Rams will host the Chargers.
Yes, they will, and I like the Rams in this. I think the Rams are a real good team. I like what they do offensively. Defensively, that defensive front is really, really, really good. And I just like the Rams. I think the Rams are really one of the best teams in the NFC, and we're seeing that development of these young guys that from the beginning to now, we've just seen that continued development. And so I think the Rams will win this. I like the Chargers. I think Chargers are a good team, but I think the Rams are going to pull this one out.
All right, Tony.
I'm with you. I don't think this Rams team has shown really any flaws yet. I think Jared Goff has been great. Obviously, Todd Gurley, when the team knows you want to run the ball and you're still getting Todd Gurley big-time chunks and touchdowns, that says something about what McVay's doing.
Oh, I think we lost Tony again. Matt.
Oh. Yeah, at this point, I mean, I don't know that the Rams have been tested too well, but I don't think it matters. Their roster is fantastic. Their scheme is terrific. Goff is playing well. Gurley looks really good. At this point, there's just no reason to think San Diego can win this game. I think San Diego is a good team. I think they will get points. But I don't know. I think once the Rams are ahead and you can pound a guy with like Todd Gurley and just have him carry the rock, that's a nice luxury. So
right,
I'll go
Tony,
with the Rams here.
Tony's back. Tony, go ahead and finish your thoughts.
Yeah, so I'm sticking with the Rams. I like McVay. I like Coach Phillips. I just think that defense is too good. The Chargers are always one of those teams that come on late. I'm going to take the Rams in this one.
All right, I'm going with the Chargers. I like Phillip Rivers, and I think with the Rams, I think they're a really good team. But they haven't played anybody yet. Everybody's talking about they're blowing everybody out, but let's look at who they beat. I don't even remember who it was in week 1 because my
Cardinals and Raiders.
Yeah, they beat the Cardinals, they beat the Raiders, and they struggled with the Raiders for 3 quarters. When you look at this Chargers team, offensive line-wise, they're good, not great. But defensive line, they're one of the few defensive lines that are in the same stratosphere as the Rams line. And when you look at the weapons, you got Melvin Gordon running the ball, and he may be more dangerous catching the ball out of the backfield, which I think with a team that puts pressure on you up front, I mean, a little swing pass, screen pass to him can break open. Austin Eckler is also dominating on the ground, running the ball 16 times for 116 yards. Keenan Allen leads the team with 175 receiving yards on 14 receptions. And you got Phillip Rivers, who's 73.1% completion so far. I know they just beat Buffalo last week. They played Kansas City. I think they got surprised by the Chiefs there because I think the Chargers in the long run are playing 16 road games when you look at their home stadium, where it was mainly Kansas City people last week. So I like the upset here. I'm going to take the Chargers. CJ, am I crazy?
No, not at all. You know what? I'm right there with you. I'm definitely taking the Chargers in this one as well. I think that the Rams are going to be thoroughly tested. The Chargers are a team that no one should really be sleeping on. And once you always have Phillip Rivers back there. Their offensive line is one of the better ones in the NFL. Their defense can still get a pass rush, and their secondary can still make nightmares for teams if they're not paying attention. I'm going to take the Chargers in an upset on this one.
All right, you're crazy, CJ. Next up, we got the Bears at the Cardinals, Tony.
This one to me, I just don't think the Cardinals have it this year. And for whatever reason, Khalil Mack looks like a superhuman, whoever he's going against. I'm amazed when you watch him. It's almost it's the first time I've been that excited to watch a defensive end player play in the NFL. He's causing all kinds of havoc. He's definitely playing with a chip on his shoulder. I think Trubisky and company do enough on offense to get a win in this one.
And I'll tell you, the only player I've seen since I've been alive, which was since the late 60s, that as a defensive player came to a team and made them a playoff team was Lawrence Taylor in 1981.
Yep.
And I think Khalil Mack could be doing the same thing with this Bears team, putting him on his back and taking him to the playoffs, Tony.
Yeah, and it's also, you look at it, it's a team that could be 2-0. I mean, they had the big lead against Green Bay. They let it slip away at the end. The Aaron Rodgers comeback game. This is a team in Chicago now, and it's crazy because before the season you don't have him picked up there at all. This is a team now that people are talking about that can make the playoffs, and it's because of the addition of Khalil Mack. And meanwhile, John Gruden is wondering why they can't get a pass rush and stop the run.
Well, John Gruden wonders a lot of things. CJ?
Yeah, I'm taking the Bears in this one. Just this Bears team, for some reason, just takes me back to when Rex Grossman was the quarterback of the Bears and how the Chicago Bears rode that defense clear up into the Super Bowl. Now, I'm not going to say that that's the same thing that's going to happen with this Bears team this year.
Well, I
but
think
definitely
the one
with the
difference here,
addition
CJ, is this. The NFC was terrible in 2006. It's
True, very
terrible
true.
right now. So you got 3 or 4 teams there that I don't think the Bears could do anything and beat.
Yeah, I have to agree with you on that, but let me tell you, Khalil Mack is such a difference maker on that defense, and I really think that he definitely improves Chicago's chances of being able to procure a playoff berth somewhere in December and early January. So this one, I got to stick with the Bears. Arizona just hasn't shown us anything right now, and I think they may be in full-on rebuilding mode after this season.
Well, and Matt, when I told you that CJ, the Jets guy, was going to be on the show, you said, well, we won't have to worry about anybody using big words. But procure is a pretty good word for a Jets fan to come up with.
I love how was I in the room when I said that?
I don't think you were, Matt, but you came in right after.
Apparently not.
Hey, it's all right.
Bears Cardinals, Matt.
All right. There's just no reason to pick the Cardinals right now. The Cardinals are they're a bad football team. They're not good on defense. They're not good on offense. They're in full rebuild mode. Sam Bradford, I mean, I don't know. I just don't. They're going to have to. I bet Rosen comes in at some point in the next 3 or 4 weeks. This is going to get uglier and uglier. They just don't have anything really going for them right now. Chicago, on the other hand, you guys said it exactly right. 1981 Giants is exactly what this reminds me of. When Khalil Mack stepped on the field last week in Green Bay, there was just a difference. You just get a total different sense of that defense. They already had some good young players, but now with him there, there's something to be. They're a force to be reckoned with. And now you look at what they were able to do on Sunday. I don't know. I think Chicago. I don't think they're a definite playoff team, but they're going to give every team that they play all they got, and they're going to give them a lot of fits. So I just don't see any way the Cardinals can compete in this game.
All right, Brian.
Yeah, I'm going to take the Bears, and I know it's early, but leads to an interesting question. I mean, can Khalil Mack be, an
NFL MVP?
NFC MVP,
NFL,
NFC, NFL MVP? I mean, watching what he does, here's a guy that walks on the field and takes over games like an offensive, a quarterback, wide receiver. But the thing about him that I think we kind of touched on, but I think people out of this conversation, they talk a lot about him, but his presence is making everybody around him better. And are the Bears a playoff team? I don't know if I'm ready to go there yet, but I do agree that everybody they play, you're in for a fight. And I think the Bears, even if they don't make the playoffs, are going to have a say in the NFC playoffs and who gets in, who maybe, could be a 1 seed, but now they drop down, because they're going to be a hard out every week. And I think they're just going to beat the crap out of Arizona.
Yeah, and I think that's a great question about Khalil Mack possibly being the league MVP. Brian, how many guys have been the league MVP that were a defensive player since the award was first brought in 1957?
Two.
Two.
Who were they?
I'm going to guess.
Alan Page, Lawrence Taylor.
Oh, no, you
71
can't
and
Google
86.
something and then break in when I ask Brian to answer the question.
Google, whatever.
Googled it.
Google.
You Googled it.
Google.
Lawrence Taylor, 20 and a half sacks. I know these guys.
Tony, yeah, he knows these guys.
I've watched this too much. I've seen this too many
Carl
times.
Banks. We don't know Lawrence Taylor because we interviewed Carl Banks, but not Lawrence Taylor.
No, I've watched him too much.
Oh, you weren't even alive in 1981, were you?
I was 4, but I've seen enough of Lawrence Taylor. He's the best player I've ever seen.
Oh, yeah, because he dominated your 49ers. Tony.
He dominated everybody.
Not the Bengals. The Bengals played him in 1985 and beat him in 1991. The Cincinnati Bengals never lost to Lawrence Taylor. It's true, because in 82, the Bengals were supposed to play the Giants in a Monday night game, but the strike knocked it out. The Bengals beat the Giants 35-30 in 1985, and then in 1991 at Riverfront Stadium, the Bengals beat them again. I can't give you the score. I don't remember the score of that one, but both times the Bengals played the Lawrence Taylor-led Giants, the Bengals won. Tony?
Yeah, I'll make my second pick for the game. I'm definitely taking the Bears again. But,
you're picking again? All right. Matt messed me up talking all that smack to me.
I will say this. Arizona, I know Arizona wants to go to Rosen. Don't put Rosen in his first game against Khalil Mack.
Yeah.
I mean, what Russell Wilson went through last night as a former quarterback, I felt bad for Russell Wilson with that offensive line. But he said Khalil Mack, he draws double teams, he beats double teams, but he's also given those other 3 linemen one-on-one matchups, and they're going to keep thriving with that as well.
And the thing I remember from that was the Bengals throwing David Klingler in his first game against Kevin Green and Greg Lloyd and the Pittsburgh Steelers, and he gets sacked 11 times in the first game. Next up, Tony, we'll just stay with you since you get to pick that game twice. The Dallas Cowboys at the Seattle Seahawks.
Gosh, Seattle's bad. The offensive line is bad. I feel Russell Wilson got sacked 5 times in the first half last night. If he wasn't the athlete that he is, it would have been 10 times. That offensive line is miserable. The defense isn't what it used to be. Dallas coming off a win against a rival with the Giants. I think they continue to find ways to get Ezekiel Elliott the ball more. They still need a receiver to step up, but I like the Cowboys in this one.
All right, CJ.
Yeah, I'm taking the Cowboys in this one. I just don't think that Seattle, right now with the way that they're playing, and Russell Wilson looks more frustrated with Brian Schottenheimer's offense than anything. It's kind of funny. I got a tweet this afternoon from a buddy of mine, George Cursor from StatementGames.com, and he actually showed me a clip of Russell Wilson from last night's game getting frustrated with the play call when Pete Carroll had to call a timeout because they couldn't get the play call in fast enough. And, it's classic Schottenheimer, classic wanted to rip your head out. And no, I'm still not over the PTSD from Schottenheimer being the offensive coordinator of the Jets. So I take Dallas in this one.
All right, I'm taking Dallas also, Brian.
Yeah, I am too. I think this is going to be a long year in Seattle.
Matt?
Well, I want to take Dallas. I've just seen this movie too much with them. Seattle has been the Houdinis of the NFL for a good 5 years now. At home, they've been on the road the last 2 weeks. They never play well on the road. They're at home. I do think they're going to have a really bad year, but I think this is a game they're going to win. Just because they're at home, they're going to right the ship for a week. They're going to get lucky. Russell Wilson's going to have maybe his best game of the year. They're going to find a way to win this game. I'll take Seattle, but they're not that they're going to have a great season.
That is spoken like a true 49er fan that has seen this movie with Seattle.
Absolutely.
Yeah, but
no question about it.
There's no Legion of Doom. There's no running game. There's no offensive line. It's just Russell Wilson running from his life now.
I know, but I'm telling you.
Talking about somebody that's going to run for their life, Matt Patricia. Daddy's home,
Oh,
and
God.
the New England Patriots go to Detroit.
Oh, God.
You're
Do we
kidding me.
really
This
need
was
to
a
pick
match
this
I
one?
did not see this
I'll
coming.
tell you, that was awesome. I just came up with it off the top of my head, too. Write that one down, Brian.
Yeah, I've already written it down. That was perfect. Oh, my God.
Can we end the
I did
show
not
on
even
that?
realize this.
You know what? I'm going to write an article previewing this game now just so I can put it in a big headline. Matt Patricia.
Say the headline again, Mike.
It's Matt Patricia, Daddy's home.
Oh, God.
Are you going to pick the game, Matt?
I didn't realize I was up. I was so dumbfounded by the matchup. I did not even realize this was the matchup this week. Bill Belichick is going to absolutely, thoroughly, and completely embarrass Matt Patricia. It's just his way. I don't think Detroit will even be competitive in this game.
All right, CJ, I know you're a big Bill Belichick fan. You cheering for the Patriots to get the Lions?
Oh, God. Well, I mean, in this one, just it's a no-brainer. You have to pick the Patriots in this one. I feel badly for Matt Patricia. He's basically taken a he's taken a plastic knife to a gunfight in this one. So,
All right, Tony.
Yeah, as each game goes by, I get more blown away by the robbery of Matthew Stafford's contract because the guy doesn't perform in big games. He beats up on the smaller teams. Patriots coming off a loss historically are fantastic. I think they win this one very easily.
Yeah, but Tony, don't you have to at some point give Matt Stafford some ammunition to put in a gun if you expect him to win big games?
Well, I mean, he's got former Bengal great Marvin Jones and Golden Tate up there.
Well, I don't think Marvin Jones and Golden Tate is what you want to take to a big game. But let's see. Has everybody picked this game? Yeah, I'm taking the Patriots. Next up.
I haven't picked it yet.
Oh, okay. Pick it.
Patriots. Go ahead.
I just wanted to get to this next game because you're going first on it, because the mighty Pittsburgh Steelers, who have won a lot of Super Bowls, are going to Tampa Bay to play the Buccaneers. What do you think, Brian?
Oh, wow.
Well, a lot of things, I think. And one thing I'm going to say is we've seen this movie before with Pittsburgh where they start the season out, do some asinine things, and then all of a sudden they turn it around. So that's the good thing I'm going to say. The bad thing I'm going to say is this right now has a whole different feeling to me, just watching this team, and it's just everything looks like a struggle. And there are Steelers fans out there that say, well, they need to sign Bell. Bell is not the problem. I think Connors has played very well. Offensively, it's not that they didn't move the ball. There's some stupid things they did during the game offensively, but the offense is not the problem. You take Joe Hayden out of that secondary, he goes from a very average secondary to a bad secondary. I forced myself for a couple reasons. One of them was because I guess I like to abuse myself. I actually watched the all 22 of this game on NFL Game Pass. Patrick Mahomes is great. It has the potential to be a great quarterback. But it also doesn't help when you make no adjustments defensively and you think that you're going to do the same thing the whole game and pick you apart. And that's been one thing with Pittsburgh defensively since they got rid of LeBeau is there are no adjustments made defensively. Very rarely do you see that. And it's mind-boggling because we're supposedly supposed to have a head coach that's supposed to be a defensive genius, quote-unquote. So with all that, I'm still going to take Pittsburgh in this game because I do believe that they will right the ship, at least for this game. But I will say this: if they lose this game, there'll be an implosion in Pittsburgh because there's a lot of things right now that this is a team that's teetering on the brink, and I don't know that they have the leadership from the head coaching standpoint to reel it back in. One thing that Tomlin's great is he's great at rallying the troops and getting them all pumped up and da-da-da, but it's different now when you got people that are pulling the rope in different directions. And I don't know that he's going to be able to fix that. Where in the past, they've been able to fix that because they had guys like Harrison. They had guys who were that veteran locker room presence that could do that. You got Antonio Brown right now and that whole deal, which, out of Pittsburgh, all you hear is, well, that's just Antonio Brown. He's a little bit like that. True. But right now there needs to be somebody that steps up, and I'm not talking just about Ben, I'm talking defensively. There needs to be guys that step up as leaders. I don't know that they have that because Harrison was such a big part of that. And I just don't know that they have that to kind of get everybody back pulling the rope in the same direction. So I'm going to take Pittsburgh in this, but I'm not going to be shocked if Fitzgerald comes out and throws for 500 yards and they lose this game 36-34.
All right, for somebody that did not want to talk about the Pittsburgh Steelers, that went a long time. Matt.
But I also told you if you got me on the subject, I was going to be there a while.
All right, Matt, you still with us? You still awake?
I am awake.
All right.
I was actually very interested in what he had to say on Pittsburgh because I got questions as well. But, no, I think Brian absolutely nailed what I thought is the problem. I don't think the problem is with the offense and maybe on Belt. I mean, granted, they really could use him. That would be nice to have him and Connor back there. But the problem is the secondary. Joe Hayden kind of solidified that secondary, and with him not there, they give up a lot of big plays. I guess I didn't realize that had been a trend with the defensive coordinator not making adjustments. That's something that Brian probably knows a lot more about than I do, but that's not going to work. And, Tampa Bay, we want to keep picking against them, but maybe Ryan Fitzpatrick really is a better fit for this Tampa Bay offense than Jameis Winston. We saw him play pretty well for the Jets a couple of years ago. I'm sure CJ can attest to that. I'm not sold on Ryan Fitzpatrick or anything, but right now, with the way the Steelers are headed and the way that Tampa Bay seems to be gaining confidence, I feel like he can just toss the ball to Deshaun Jackson, O.J. Howard, and Mike Evans and dare Pittsburgh to stop them. I'm going to take Tampa Bay.
All right, Tony, my take on Ryan Fitzpatrick is this. I watched him with the Bengals when Carson Palmer went down to 1 year. He played well then. I think he's always generally played at least at the level of an average NFL starting quarterback, which I think makes him a hell of a player. He's lasted for a decade in the NFL or more, and he started at a lot of those places, and I think he gets underrated. I think he's a lot better than people make him out to be, and I don't think this is a complete aberration. Will he play like this the whole year? Probably not, but who will?
Right. Well, Fitzpatrick was just, one of the very few people that just hasn't played well under the Marvin Lewis tenure. I don't know what it is about Fitzpatrick, but no, I do. I think Fitzpatrick, with the weapons they have, O.J. Howard, Deshaun Jackson, Mike Evans, you look at this Pittsburgh team, they're vulnerable to the deep ball. They got Atlanta coming up on the schedule who's going to push the ball down the field. And to me, the questions on the Pittsburgh offensive side of the ball, this whole thing about Roethlisberger's elbow, he comes out and throws 60 times in a game. And I know you're down and you're chasing, but for me, you lost sight of Antonio Brown late in the game. Juju Smith is still emerging as a great player. But aside from all those reasons, I'm going to have to take Pittsburgh in this game because I feel like if they lose this game, then things completely implode. Like we said, I think they fall apart. If they right the ship and can get a win here, maybe they get some momentum. But this, to me, you hate to see it week 3. This is a make-or-break game for the Pittsburgh season, I feel like, because I feel like if they lose, it's going to continue to go downhill.
Yeah, I agree, which I want to pick Tampa Bay. But as you said, their backs are against the wall. But when I look at this, the thing that sticks out to me is I know he won a Super Bowl. He's been to a couple Super Bowls, but – I just don't think Mike Tomlin's that good of a football coach. I mean, to me, Mike Tomlin is like Marvin Lewis, and the fact that Marvin Lewis is in this division is why Mike Tomlin's been successful. I think Tampa Bay wins the game. I think Pittsburgh's got major issues, and I think the issues are more at defense and head coach than anything else, CJ.
Yeah, I have to agree with you on that. I'm definitely picking Tampa Bay in this one. Ryan Fitzpatrick has got the hot hand right now. Mike Evans, Deshaun Jackson, O.J. Howard. I just think it's going to be too much for Pittsburgh to match. And I really think that on the Pittsburgh end, they've got a lot of distractions with the Le'Veon Bell situation, now the Antonio Brown situation. A lot of those distractions have a tendency to take its toll on the field. You could say, yeah, we're keeping it in-house all you want, but evidently sometimes, play really dictates what's going on. And you know what? That Kansas City game, they made a valiant effort to come back, but let me tell you, I mean, Kansas City was probably one kill shot away in the second half from really putting that game away. So I don't see the Steelers. I see the Steelers being competitive, but they're not winning this game. I'm picking the Bucs.
All right, guys, we're going to wrap it up for this week. Matt, any final words? You want to tell people when you and Dexter will be back to do the 49ers show?
Dex and I will be recording tomorrow night. We record every Wednesday night to kind of give us a midweek feel, and then the show will be posted Thursday mornings. So we'll give a recap of the previous game and then a preview of the game coming up, so that you can hear us on Thursday mornings.
All right, guys, so make sure Thursday morning you tune in, especially if you're a San Francisco 49er fan, to Matt Andruscavage and former 49er legend Dexter Carter. I think he was on their anniversary team, their 50th anniversary team as the all-time kick returner?
That's correct.
All right. Next up, CJ, you want to tell us about the Jets Factor podcast and when they can hear that?
Absolutely. Tomorrow night, as a matter of fact, September 19th, I'm going to be having our Jets-Browns preview show with special guest Jeff L. Lloyd from the Locked On Browns podcast. It's going to be joining me for a little bit as we preview Thursday night's game. You can find the Jets Factor podcast on Twitter at CNC Jets Factor. You can you can find the show itself on thegruelingtruth.net, the UNB Sports Network, most recently Sports War Radio, and as always, our home base, SoundCloud.com.
All right. Brian, any final words? We'll be doing the CFL Weekly Pick'em Show tomorrow night at 9:30 live with Robert Drummond, who won 4 Grey Cups, all played for the Eagles, and on the undefeated Syracuse Orangemen in 1988, I believe it was. But you got any final words, Brian?
Not really. Looking forward to another week of football. It'll be interesting to see. Some of these games are going to be. I'm interested. I really am interested in the Falcons New Orleans game. I just think that's going to be a high-scoring, fun game to watch. So I really hope it turns out to be that, because that game just happens to be on where I'm at. So.
All right, Tony.
It'll be a fun game.
Tony, any final words?
Yep, I think this week has the feel to be one of those weeks where there's some great games. But watching game Sunday, there's so many entertaining games in the NFL right now, and there's so many good things happening, and there's players emerging on offense and defense. But to me, the problem in the NFL continues to be the penalty situation, the flag situation on the roughing the passer. Clay Matthews got absolutely robbed this week. It's doing the game a disservice that these great games are being played, and these guys are out here battling, and the main talk becomes the officials and what's going on. And every play, you're essentially waiting for another flag to be thrown. Something needs to be done in the NFL, because you're going to start losing this momentum you have if these officials keep stepping in. And I'd like to see a week without a tie in the NFL. I think the overtime rule needs to be changed. I think it needs to be some along the lines of college, but maybe start these guys at the 50-yard line and say you can't kick a field goal. You got to go be aggressive. Do something. This isn't soccer at this point. Go and find a winner after an overtime series.
Well, just hopefully the Cardinals don't play the Bills in a game like that, because I don't think either one of them score a touchdown.
Correct.
All right, guys. Remember, you can hear all the Grueling Truth shows on iHeartRadio, Spotify, Spreaker, Stitcher, TuneIn. Wherever you find sports podcasts, you'll find the Grueling Truth. So, for CJ DeSimone, Tony Pike, Brian Schmidt, Matt Andruscavage, I'm Mike Goodpaster. You've been listening to The Grueling Truth, where the legends speak.